Hello everyone. So today I warmly welcome all of you to our third video, and in this video we're going to talk about this famous topic called emptiness in Buddhist context. So as you can see, the topic of today's video is whether the emptiness is a phenomenon or a meditative experience or some kind of a philosophical concept. So we're going to dive deeper into this subject today, and we're going to demystify emptiness in all of these three categories. Okay, I think most of you have heard of the term called Shunya, and this term has been popular within the Hindu and Yogic tradition. And most of the Hindu and Yogic traditions, pre-Vedic teachings, they appeared even before Gautam Buddha's appearance in India. So the Shunya, the term essentially means that the resultant is zero. The resultant of an action, the resultant of a meditative experience, a resultant of thought formation is zero. So in Hindu and Yogic traditions, people or the yogis, they wanted to go into this meditative state called Shunya, so that in the samadhi, in the deep absorption of samadhi, they become zero, they become thoughtless, and in that very meditative experience they become also one with the entire existence. So we have already spoken about these type of meditative experiences in the previous video. But is it same as this emptiness that we discuss in Buddhism? So this is what we're going to look at. Moreover, in this video, we're going to explain about emptiness in terms of the Shravaka practice or the Shravaka path, as well as the Bodhisattva path. So these are two different paths that we have already discussed about in our previous videos. So let's dive into the topic. So similar to Hindu and Yogic tradition, also in Buddhist tradition we have a similar meditative experience or absorption called Shunyata experience. So if you look at now we have three different schools, three different main schools in Buddhism, starting from the Theravada, the basic school, and then the Bodhisattva paths, Mahayana school, and then the Tantrayana, the higher and advanced yogic sadhana path. So among all these paths, Mahayana and Tantrayana paths are mainly speaking about this topic, emptiness. Due to this reason, some Theravada spiritual practitioners tend to think that emptiness is topic developed by Mahayanists and not directly coming from Gautama the Buddha. This is also a misconception. If someone really dives into the Theravada Tripitaka or the Pali canon, then they can find plenty of information related to this concept called emptiness. So then at this point I also debunk this the way of thinking about this way of thinking. So emptiness in a nutshell is a common topic for all the Buddhist practitioners and for all the Buddhist paths. So in the previous video I already mentioned that by using the mindfulness training, by following the Eightfold Noble Path in Buddhist tradition, we can go into certain levels in the path of realization. So this path of realization can be divided into several enlightening stages, starting from the stream entry to an arihant in the disciple path, and different bodhisattva levels in bodhisattva path. So at each stage of the path, we are supposed to eradicate our fetters, our mental defilements. So as a result, we get a fruition mind. And this fruition mind is an indication to the purity of your mind. And this purity of the mind, then you will naturally come to you during meditation. So that is the purpose of doing meditation, because this emptiness can also be understood as a philosophical concept. And in fact, many Buddhist practitioners first try to understand the emptiness in terms of all the mental sphere information. But if the practitioners want to go further, then definitely they have to do meditation and go into this no mind state or the fruition mind states by themselves. So if you follow the Eightfold Noble Path, then definitely you will have to go through certain mind purity, mind. You have to go through the purified states of mind, several states of mind. Suppose that now you are in the stream entry stage in the Shravaka path, or maybe you are in the 5th or 6th levels of Bodhisattva stages. Then due to the eradicated fetters, you will come to experience this no mind state, where your personality totally disappears, where your individuality disappears into nothingness, and then you become one with the entire existence. And what else? All the clinging and tendencies that you have towards your religious tradition, your religious background, or your ethnicity, and many other things start to fall from this point onwards. How? That is the nature of, that is the magic of this meditative state. So in terms of disappearing of the individuality and disappearing of our the qualities of self, this experience is somewhat similar to Hindu tradition's Shunya experience. But what I can tell you for sure is, if you follow the Buddhism path, the Eightfold Noble Path, then definitely in this very experience you will become one with the entire existence. So you have all these fascinating qualities in your meditative state, but when you come out of your meditative state, and then when you try to deal with the outside people in the outside world, then you started to see a tremendous shift in your consciousness. There's a significant shift in your consciousness. So due to this significant shift in your consciousness, you started to see everybody as equal, and you will try to understand that all these, the spiritual attainments, they don't have any boundaries. They are well beyond the limitations of our mind. And then the poor person and also the most rich person in front of you, they become alike. So likewise, all these discrimination qualities, all these discriminations will collapse in your mind. So that is the real difference, that is the real shift happens to you if you do meditation. So then, how these qualities are related to the emptiness, the term called emptiness? Well, more you try to see, more you sense the inherent nature of objects in front of you, more and more you try to see the discriminative patterns in the outside world objects, then you are getting attached to your clinging, then you are getting attached to all the distorted views, and you still have tendencies to believe that you become basically judgmental. And because of this meditative experience, you will become free from all these judgments, and you will stop doing the generalization to any kind of worldly activities. So likewise, a certain quality will develop in you, a certain attunement will come to you. That's the importance of having the meditative experience. So even without studying anything at all about emptiness, even without reading anything at all about Nagarjuna's work or Zen work, you will gradually develop these qualities in you. Now, if you look at certain yogis in any kind of tradition, they are not very well, not all of them are very well educated, right? Not all of them have any, good theoretical background. But how do they cultivate these qualities? They cultivate these qualities solely because of their meditative experience, solely because of their the unity within them. So that is the most important thing we need to understand. Now let's talk about the inherent nature of existence. So typically, if we are not, when we are not enlightened and when we haven't had any meditative experience and we also haven't studied anything about emptiness, then our thinking pattern is as follows. Whenever we see something outside world, we always think that this outside world object comes to us with a certain inherent nature into it. And we don't know that this outside world object actually appears to us with the help of our mental projections too, that we don't understand. And because of this very reason that we have struggles with the outside world. Because of this very reason we we are having a lot of all these troubles in the society, ethnic conflicts, and also the political turmoils. And if we go into the subject deeply, then we would understand that the concepts that arrive to us, the concepts that generate in us with respect to an outside world phenomena, cannot happen by itself. It cannot happen alone. It happens according to also our mental tendencies. So for an example, suppose that you meet your arch enemy in front of you when you are going on trip, and this person you are meeting after several years. But if you are full of defilements, there is still a possibility that the mental fetters can come into the surface, and it can make you agitated, or it can make you upset to even see this person in your face. So it is up to you to decide whether you start a fight with this person, or you simply just have a smile in your face and disappear from the situation. But most of the time, due to our attachments, our defilements, and our previous mental imprints, most of the time we would perhaps make a situation. Perhaps we would try to make a situation with this person even after several number of years. So that's how our mind works. We cannot really be free from our mind. And whenever that kind of event, that kind of outside person, or that kind of situation causes an unease in you, then you need to realize that this unease appears to you not because of the outside phenomena, it's because of our mental imprints and our memory and imagination. So in that very example, I'm trying to explain what is the inherent nature. Okay, so let's take a look at a few more examples to explain the lacking of inherent self in the outside world. In the first example, I'm going to talk about a situation that actually took place in Sri Lanka. So what happened was, in a rural village, there was a lady, a girl, and there were also two guys from two different religious backgrounds who were checking out this girl. But you know that usually girls do not share their feelings, and because of this reason, that girl was telling one thing to one guy and another thing to the other guy. So then this situation has led to pick a fight between these two youngsters, and at some point, both of them actually brought also their relatives from their family backgrounds, and these relatives were also coming from two two different religious traditions, and some of the people they know from the adjacent cities and districts they also came in. So naturally, the small incident had turned into uh, an ethnic conflict in Sri Lanka, and the government also had the opportunity, plenty of space to also stop this at the very beginning, but they didn't take any action because more we have this type of ethnic conflicts, more opportunities that the politicians will get. So now, if you deeply look at this situation, this example, you would definitely understand that at the very beginning, at the root cause of this problem, there was nothing about ethnicities, there was nothing about ethnic conflict, there was nothing about politics. In the root case level, it all comes down to very simple matters. But we are the one who actually trying to escalate that type of simple matter into a devastation. So, if you look at now, the root cause of this problem was having a love affair. And then, if you look at everything that happened after this root cause, they had, some touch upon, some touch around the ethnicities and ethnic conflicts. And then how these ethnic conflicts and the problems related to ethnicity emerged, it emerged from a love affair. See, this is like totally these two things are irrelevant. But it's because of this dependent nature of worldly phenomena, dependent origination, the problem related to dependent origination, that we try to fuel this normal, simple root cause problem into totally something else different. So that's what I wanted to explain. Okay, so up to this point, we have talked about the most important aspects of realizing emptiness. So I first introduced it as a meditative experience under P1, that is point one. And then when you go into meditation, when you do meditation for sufficiently long time, then you will come to experience this no mind states. And the first no mind state is equivalent to Satori or Kensho in Zen Buddhism, or you could also call it oneness. So from that point, then we came to the point two, which explains how the emptiness can be realized as an intellectual thing, how the emptiness can be realized in the intellectual capacity. And for that, I gave several few examples to explain how the things are really empty in our existing world. And then in point three, at this point, now we're going to discuss how the meditative experience is helping us to realize emptiness, uh, and then what kind of shift it generates in us in our day to day life. So, this is what we're going to talk about under P3. So, I already mentioned that the fruition minds that the yogi attain through meditation, in that fruition mind, the personality dissolves. In that experience, the individuality disappears. So when you attune into that experience, oneness, satori or kensho, again and again, when you develop it further daily, what happens is certain limiting factors, certain limited mind layers in your mind started to collapse. And this collapsing is really necessary. And unless you actually break down these walls, you cannot really go into more profound experience. And that is what we try to achieve through meditation. And when these extra mind layers, limiting mind layers, are collapsing slowly, what happens is this change into your mind continuum will be visible, will be reflected again in your day to day life. So, this is what I meant by the shift. That kind of shift, you cannot really have a shift into consciousness or only at the mind level. No. Only at the mind level, what we can do is we can think. We can train our mind to, believe in certain things or to change the perception. That is too fine. But it is not the shift I mean here. The real shift to your consciousness, to your character, to your mind is only possible uh, by transcending your current mind. So, what is transcending the mind? It is going beyond the mind. And how do we go beyond the mind? Only by doing meditation, only through meditation and only going into these no mind states. And this is how the meditation experience itself changes and brings a shift to your entire human consciousness. Okay, now we jump to the next important topic, which is how the emptiness is defined and realized in Bodhisattva and Arya disciple paths. So, the capacity wise, we have two different paths, as we mentioned before. You can either walk in the Bodhisattva path or in the Arya disciple path. And depending on the style of the school, we have three schools, Theravada, Mahayana, and Tantrayana. So the Mahayana and Tantrayana schools motivate the practitioners to attain Buddhahood by following the Bodhisattva path. And then this question can be, simplified into the following: how would a Bodhisattva would uh, see the emptiness with respect to his world, and how is it different from the viewing of emptiness by a Shravaka? Well, that's a bit, complicated topic, but I will try my best to uh, simplify it to the best of my ability. if you read the Theravada Pali Canon, then you would notice that there are dedicated sutras for the topic called emptiness. So if someone from the Theravadi background wants to venture in this direction, then definitely he would pick these sutras. And these sutras especially mention about the emptiness that we can attain by developing meditation, by following the Eightfold Noble Path. However, that emptiness is the realization of emptiness is kind of private realization to the practitioner. For example, there could be an arihant who is following the Eightfold Noble Path, and then upon realization of the emptiness, that's more of a personal realization, so that he knows exactly there is no individuality uh, to actually cling and also to make these contacts with the outside world. It's only a dependent origination factors that we have. So there is no really person living in the world. And apart from that, in the meditative experience, the Arya disciple also witnesses the purity of his mind, and that kind of emptiness can only be reached by eradicating fetters. What else? And also the conceptual knowledge. The conceptual, we as human beings, we are really good at making concepts, and there is nothing wrong about it because of only the concepts that the science has evolved, and many other things in this world have evolved to current state. So the concepts are necessary, but if you are going in the opposite direction to the world, which is the enlightenment, the road towards the enlightenment, then the concepts are becoming hindrance to our progression. So a person who follows the Arya disciple path would also understand that the concepts do not, the concepts are not really concepts. They are like mind-made stories. So he would arrive to that understanding upon realizing the emptiness. So in that way, the realization of emptiness is threefold for our disciple. First, our disciple would understand the empty nature of the self. Everything in this world is empty of the self grasping. The second thing is, he would also assert that this emptiness, the purity of the heart, can only be reached by cutting through mental fetters of defilements. And the third one is, because everything is dependent to each other, all the concepts, even the dharmas, and even social norms that are known to us are depending on many other factors. Everything has a lack of inherent self, and therefore all the concepts are also zero, and they don't have any effect on a realized being. So these three main realization will come to an Arya disciple. How does it work for Bodhisattva? Essentially, the Bodhisattva is also working towards his enlightenment, but his goal of enlightenment is superior than an Arya disciple because he is targeting for Buddhahood. So, Bodhisattva, due to this very reason, in addition to all three realizations of a Shravaka, he has to also work towards the enlightenment of other beings, other people in this world. So that's what we call the great compassion of a Bodhisattva. And apart from that, uh, in order to give teachings in more meaningful way, more skillful way, the Bodhisattva has to also master the wisdom aspect. So emptiness, I mentioned that emptiness can be understood as a mental thing, or it can also be a meditative experience, which is more profound. And from the last one emerges the real compassion and the real wisdom. So the bodhisattvas are dedicating their whole life to have exalted wisdom and compassion. Only because of these two, as a combination, can help them to reach the full attainment of a Buddha or the Buddhahood. So due to this very reason, Bodhisattvas will postpone their realization and they will look at the entire creation uh, in a way that he is a mother to every living being. He is a mother to all the beings in the 31 planes of existence. And so that Bodhisattva will never make himself isolated from the society because he wants to actively contribute to the society and people who are suffering from the society. So that's why Bodhisattvas are postponing the enlightenment after they come to a certain level. But this certain enlightenment level is comparable to the enlightenment of once returner and non-returner levels in Arya disciple path. And after they perhaps reach to once returner or the non-returner, they would go they would go and do the service for the mankind for the sake of the collective consciousness. And apart from that, bodhisattvas will have some unique meditative experiences, very unique to them. I mentioned in one of the previous videos that the destiny of a bodhisattva is determined by his samsaric maturity. So in the samsara, he might have cultivated, you know, uh, great qualities from different teachers in the past lives. So these qualities will resurface again in this life when he is practicing. And due to this reason, he could have perhaps uh, gone into certain meditative absorptions that are not available to Shravakas. So there are also differences in these meditative attainments. So our bodhisattvas might have more profound realizations and insights from their meditation. So that is the main difference between the understanding of emptiness between a bodhisattva and our disciple. So the emptiness, in a nutshell, in very short, we could say like this. The understanding of emptiness isolates the Arya disciple from the world. The understanding of emptiness gives the meaningless notion to the existence of the disciple. But the emptiness of bodhisattva is totally opposite. Because he stands for suffering of other people, he is not isolated from the society. Because he has eradicated all the mind limitation factors, he can reach out to any corner of this world. He can act with poor people and rich people alike. And apart from that, due to his skillful means, due to his exalted wisdom, he can deliver the dharma to a certain extent to any population of any religious background. So these are the main differences I wanted to highlight. The next interesting question is, uh, do we already know about these bodhisattvas? Have you read about them in the history? Well, I will give you a few examples here. So the first figure we are looking at is the figure of Bodhisattva Vimalakirti. Many Mahayana and Tantrayana practitioners are well aware of this figure and also the character, because Vimalakirti, according to the sutras, Mahayana sutras, Vimalakirti was contemporary to Gautama the Buddha, and he was said to be, highly educated and also a rich person. He hasn't renounced his lay life, but he had the perfect ability to give teachings on Dharma. So he was famous for the teaching of non-duality during Gautam Buddha's time. And according to the Mahayana Sutras, in certain cases, Gautam Buddha even sent his disciples to get teachings from Vimalakirti. According to the sutras, Vimalakirti's wisdom was in one way or another comparable to Gautama the Buddha. So what we can presume from this information is Vimalakirti I think at least was in the Bodhisattva level of 10 or 9 or 10, which means um, that's the main reason why he had a lot of wisdom, and he has the perfect ability to give the non-duality teachings to any capacity. And he was praised by even Buddha for his wisdom. Another famous Bodhisattva from the Zen tradition is Master Ikkyu. So the Master Ikkyu uh, was a notorious person, and if you are well familiar with the Zen story of burning the Buddha statues, burning the wooden Buddha statues in one of the Zen temples, so these stories were linked to the Zen master Ikkyu, and there are many other stories also linked to him, but we don't know whether he is the right person because there are a lot of debates about the stories. But nonetheless, if you read about the Zen master Ikkyu's story, you would understand he also wanted to genuinely help people, and that's why he didn't actually stay in the temple monastery. Instead, he wanted to share his meditative insight experience, satori and kensho experiences with uh, different levels of the society. So sometimes he was helping, poor people. Sometimes he was with uh, low caste people. So his compassion and wisdom reach out to all the levels of the society at that time. And not only that, he used to also visit brothels, not to have temptation or enjoyment, but to share his wisdom and dharma with those suffering people in those areas. So these are the qualities of a great bodhisattva. So these two figures were coming from Mahayana tradition. Then let's also take a look at the Tantra tradition. So we are well aware of Master Tilopa. So the Master Tilopa was a tantric master. He's a prominent figure in the tantric Buddhism who also introduced several lineages to that school. So the Master Tilopa was in the search of, after his full realization, he did not share his teaching with many people. He was basically looking for the right student. Before his main disciple Naropa came into contact with him, he had a few disciples, like about 4 and 5 disciples, but they were not consistent and they were, coming and going. But then when he met Naropa, he immediately realized that Naropa is going to be his bone marrow like disciple. And so the Tilopa then started to give teachings. So Tilopa had a small number of circle of students, but Tilopa also worked for the realization of the lower caste people, and his compassion also reaches out to the farthest corners in northern India. So these masters are the prime examples for great bodhisattvas because they didn't actually want to stay in isolation. They wanted to make their realization available to everybody. And if you take all these three masters, one very specific thing you would notice is they never give teachings from books, and they also never refer to a prominent figure in the history, because realized masters always give teachings based on their insights, based on their tranquility within them. Otherwise, whatever the teachings we say, otherwise whatever the words that we utter, uh, they don't really make sense. So these masters, as I mentioned in the previous section, they had this, perfectly developed skillful means. So, for an instance, Vimalakirti was really a good debater, and he used this skill, uh, debating with other people. He used this skill to spread and propagate the Dharma teachings. And most people who came to Vimalakirti after debating with him, they come to realize certain basic things, and then most of them go and become disciples of Buddha. So there was a situation like that. And apart from that, Master Ikkyu. He has this perfect ability to teach to people who do not understand Dharma very well. He has this the unique quality of uh, attracting people, and to him, all the poor people, the lower caste people, and also the richest people in the society are alike. And if you look at Tilopa's methods, Master Tilopa, uh, his teaching was unique in his own way. He was a tantric master, so his behavior is also a bit eccentric. And sometimes the realized masters act in very strange ways, and that's why if you read their stories, you would also stumble upon certain strange and eccentric behaviors of these masters. But it's not because they are crazy; it's because that's their very teaching style. So Master Tilopa also had such eccentric and also nice teaching styles, which helped Naropa to reach the Buddhahood. So, in a nutshell, what I'm trying to explain is these three masters, for instance, they represent the great bodhisattvas in the Buddhist tradition. And by combining the skillful means, by combining it with exalted wisdom and compassion, they were able to give teachings to various number of people from different social structures. So by mentioning this, I conclude my video. So after watching this video, you should be able to understand that the Bodhisattva and disciple paths are different, but the realization of emptiness between a Bodhisattva and Arya disciple, they have common things. But the Bodhisattva's realization could be superior because his aim is to reach the Buddhahood so that he would be beneficial to many sentient beings.